When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Hello YouTubers, welcome to my channel. So happy to have you here today with me. All right, so let's look at chapter 4, Lady C. What are we talking about in chapter 4? Have you guys read chapter 4? Well, you know, as we look in chapter 4, we can see we're all talking about the press. We're talking about some conniving, because we know Meghan has shown us who she is. So as you know, what I do is I go through and just point out some things that I found interesting about the chapter. Sometimes information is imparted in a story that is so personal that it can only have come from one of the people involved. As soon as I saw personal details in those stories, I could tell someone very close to the couple had been the source. We're talking about when they started dating. Knowing how Harry hates the press, whom he blames for his mother's death, and knowing that he had no motive for leaking the news of his relationship with Meghan, I tried to get to the bottom of things. I therefore rang Adam Helliker, then the social columnist of the Sunday Express, and someone I have known, liked, and respected for decades. Adam told me the tip-off came in the age of old way from a servant. You know, Harry and Meghan are trying to come off as being these underground, well, we don't know nothing. We don't know nothing. And all along knowing very well that they are the ones who are involved in all the information that we are finding out about them, or the servants have been given the okay to say something. You know, Diana has done this. We have been there, done that. And the whole thing that they're trying to do, that's new way, new age, and try to say that they're doing things on the up and up. We know they shysters, and they are doing things that are conniving. And it just shows you who they are. It shows you especially who Meghan is. You know, we've heard the stories where she's come out and she's been the person who has planted stories. She's told people or called photographers to come and take pictures where she's going to be. It just makes it look like you are behind this and you are lying. You are trying to make it look like you're not behind something that we clearly know who you are. We know you're behind it. And so that in itself should tell people that this is a woman who is trying to control a narrative about herself, keeping in mind that she doesn't even speak to her father anymore for doing the exact same thing. So she's doing things that she thinks are horrible comparative to what her father did, but yet she's doing it herself. So people are supposed to just overlook all of that and say, you know, Meghan, you know, be fans of her because look at how the press is treating her. But look at how she is trying to manipulate the press. So we all know that their relationship became big news. She didn't get a status of any celebrity or knowledge of knowing who she was until she started dating Harry. Yes, where she talked about how the Western media had exaggerated Meghan's status to make it look like she was truly someone who was suitable for the British monarchy, knowing that she had not been everything that they had been trying to describe her as being. I mean, I'll give it to Meghan. She did have moderate success as an actor, because in the industry of acting, it's so competitive and jobs are so few, especially for people who are minorities. And so the work that she did end up getting, to her credit, good for her that she was able to do that, but she wasn't on the level of someone who was built up by the press as someone who had all of this success as a top-notch actress and who is now coming into the royal family. She was an unknown actor who got small bit parts. She had the biggest part she ever had was on Suits, which even then wasn't even a main character. So they really tried to play up her character or her personality or who she was more so than what was really due to her. But when you look at that from the other side, from the actor's point of view, she did have, in my opinion, a considerable amount of success when you look at the big picture of breaking into the acting industry, because it is very difficult. She goes on to talk about the relationship that, Harry has had with the press, not really understanding that there are certain press out there that are much more sleazier, much more vindictive, and by any means necessary get the information that they want. And then there are more respectable, more established, journalistic, very reputable journalistic practices by some that are not in line with those who are the more sleazier type publications. But she's saying that Harry just wants to slump all of these different press into one bag of media and say that they're all bad, when the reality is that Princess Diana was not killed by the press. But for Harry, that's his way of coping with justifying the fact that his mother is dead, and to be able to blame it on the press, I think helps him deal with the death of his mother a lot easier. But we know Princess Diana, she was not wearing a seatbelt when she passed. So, who wants to blame their mother for being partly responsible for her own death by not wearing her seatbelt? Right? So that would be hard for Harry to do. But at the same time, I think, hey, Diana was known for wearing her seatbelt, and she could have just not been able to put on her seatbelt. It could have been a malfunction of the seatbelt. There could have been a reason why she wasn't wearing her seatbelt. So who really knows why that was the case? Because her sister even said that she was very meticulous about wearing her seatbelt. That Meghan had a history of cultivating, captivating, degenerating, denigrating, and discarding both men and women in her ascent to the top. A male journalist told me, as she climbs up the next rung of the ladder, she plants the soles of her shoes on your head. And when you wipe your face off, you see this covered in cow dung. Now that's a way to tell a story, isn't it? Meghan, in other words, had discarded a whole load of friends, both sexes, aside from men with whom she had been involved, and done it in such a way that they had become enemies. Who are her friends? Like, who really talks pleasantly about her? We know that she's met and dealt with a lot of people. She don't have hardly anyone saying anything nice about her. So we know it's true. We can tell by the company that she keeps. We can tell by how she no longer has very close relationships with hardly anyone. So it's very clear to us by her actions that she has done a lot of things to make people mad. She has discarded people. Who was fashioning the narrative behind the scenes? Yes, because we knew that Meghan was going to be coming out into the public realm. People were going to know who she was immediately, and they were going to dive into everything about her personality once they knew who Harry's girlfriend was. And so she wanted to control that narrative. She wanted to make sure that the information that people had about her came from her, and it wasn't because they found certain things about her that she did not want them to know. The existence of the TIG did not trigger the suspicion that Meghan herself might be pulling the strings for the marionettes to jump the way she wanted. Most journalists assume the actresses are too dumb to write their own lines, much less fashion their own narrative. The TIG, they assume, was written by someone else, and always had been. Yet there were clear clues that the timing might not be completely accidental. Right. Although Meghan was too keen to mention Harry by name, her profile had surged so exponentially in the previous 24 hours that when she said, "My cup runneth over, I'm the luckiest girl in the world," she was verifying her status as Harry's girlfriend. So we all remember when Harry had came out with this statement, and this was the first time that I knew who Meghan Markle was, is when Harry had this statement put out to the press about his girlfriend. So we remember the statement that Harry had issued. So he had asked for this statement to be issued in the hopes that those in the press who have been driving the story can pause and reflect before any further damage is done. So we know that this statement that he had issued, it was something he had never done before. He didn't do it for Chelsea. He didn't do it for Cressida, both of whom had to endure years of press attention with never a word from him to protect them. This revealed that Meghan was in a class of her own. But in his statement, Harry had conflated responsible writers and crazy opinionists, using the latter to silence the former. So, you know, I have to give it to Harry for wanting to protect Meghan in the beginning and to issue a statement about people backing off. But overall, people didn't really make this out to be a bad thing. It was a good thing that Harry was in a relationship with Meghan, and he knew whoever he was going to end up with was going to get a lot of attention with the press. That's just how it works. That's just how it is. And we know that Meghan was on the hunt. She was on the hunt for a famous, wealthy Brit. She told it to Liz Cundy. We know that. Right? So Meghan was looking for this kind of opportunity. She didn't just slip and fall in love with Prince Harry Windsor. She wanted this. She wanted this crazy. So let's get that straight. Okay? And it's always like, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. You just might get it. So Meghan knew that she wanted a lifestyle that was going to put her on a bigger global stage, something that was going to propel her to new heights. It was going to elevate her stardom, her name recognition. That is exactly what she wanted. And she found it when she met Prince Harry. And so all the attention of the press, she got what she wanted, but then she saw, this is a little kind of cray-cray. This is a little crazy. This is not what I exactly envisioned. But it was going to be like that regardless of who Harry was going to be with. And this is why the other two young ladies had sense. They were like, we ain't getting involved with that. We let Harry, I love you, but I ain't gonna marry you. I will love you from afar. And they bolted. They were like, I'm out of here. Okay? Because we know Miss MM, she gonna bolt too. She just gonna do it after she gets married and has the baby. But she gonna bolt. She gonna leave. But the point being is, this is just a part of what happens. And eventually it dies down. Eventually you don't have to worry about it anymore. You just kind of go, okay. The novelty of the relationship is over. We don't have to worry about it anymore. And you can just kind of move on. The Tig was a visible proof that her beliefs, personality were incompatible with the royal role which she would inevitably have to fulfill in her relationship with Harry should end in marriage. That's right. The royals knew. They knew everything about what she had written before they even got married. So, and Meghan knew that her opinions weren't going to be a part of the game anymore. She was giving up her access to have an opinion about anything. And this is important too, because Lady C goes on to talk about how Meghan was utterly ignorant of the way the British press works. She was like a child whose beloved pet is docile and loving, Cavalier King Charles Spaniel walking into a lion's den thinking that she can train it. She tweaks its nose, pulls its cheeks, threatens it with her fists, or orders it to sit still. She walks away confident that she has it under her control, little realizing that it simply can't be bothered to show her who's boss. No public figure in Britain can function without in-depth understanding of how the British press works. It is unique, and there is no other press in the world like it. It is so radically different from the North American press that Meghan was used to that she was totally underprepared for what living with its attentions would mean to her life. this statement. She might have understood before her marriage that she was like a swimmer used to a well-heated door pool being plunged into the icy chill of the North Sea in winter. The press worldwide is tame compared to the British press. So she goes into the history about how the British press came into its existence as to how it is today. I think she paints a very clear picture as to, what you should expect from the British press and how it works with the royals, and the royals needing publicity and the press needing stories to highlight that brings attention to these charities. So they've got a very special relationship, the royals and the press. And Meghan came into this whole situation not really clearly understanding how things were going to work. And like Lady C was saying, like coming in and thinking that she's going to change things. Coming in and thinking that she is going to make things different. But she got smacked down with that nonsense because the press is the press, and it's going to operate the way it's going to operate. And so is the monarchy. And she was not going to come in, and she wasn't going to be changing any of that. And so she had to have herself put in place, essentially. And that's what's happened. And, I find it interesting when you watch shows like People, their online shows, how they always come from a point of view of, Meghan can do no wrong, or they'll make it out to be, oh, well, people are so one-sided this way. Because they do that so they can have access to her. So they're even being not very genuine with their reporting, because they don't really report on the stories the way that they should. When they see that, MM is behaving badly, they need to report on that the way it is. But they want to be nice to her so that they have access to her. So you're not really getting a clear picture of who she is as a person. The view is very slanted. Meghan's coming in trying to show what, her image should look like, rather than just going about doing herself, being who she is, and just letting the stories paint you as who you are. But she can't do that because she knows there's some shadiness going on. She knows she's got a way of conniving. So she's got to change the narrative. She's got to paint the picture a little bit different so that the press see her one way. Because she knows they really look under the sheets and they're going to see something they don't want to see. So she's kind of has to do this. But the British press, you ain't looking under no sheets. You ain't going to try to change nothing. They are going to do things the way they have been doing it. I think things did get a little bit better after Princess Diana died, but all in all, the British press is a different beast. It's completely different than what Meghan was used to. And even she said in that interview, my friends warned me, they told me, don't do it, don't do it. Well, she should have listened and she shouldn't have done it. But she did it, and hey, this is where we are. She kind of had to do this conniving because people weren't just going to report stories on her because she didn't really have that superstar stature that she may have wanted to have, but she kind of had to control things because she just didn't have it like that. She was a semi-celebrity. So some people, like her neighbors, had nothing negative to say, while others confided that she was a piece of work and an operator who was ruthless, ambitious, and practiced at dumping people past their sell-by date. It's kind of like she had her friends, how, oh, you expired. You ain't my friend no more. It's time for me to move on and buy something else. So like she looked at her friends as having expiration dates. Wouldn't that be crazy if like you had your friends and you know them like so many years, and then it's kind of like, okay, you stale. I'm trying to go on to the next person now. I'm moving on to somebody else to be your friend because, she just couldn't be settled down with somebody too long because who's going to put up with her? So she kind of always had to keep making friends. The invitations to the marriage. And I didn't think about this before, but imagine being a relative of Meghan's and not getting an invitation. How would that make you feel? Like you would feel jilted. You would feel like, wow, she didn't just kick me under the rug, didn't she? I thought we were cool. And that was the case with a lot of the family. They had never had any problems, especially Doria's side of the family. They weren't even acknowledged. They were looked at as if they did not even exist. It's a kick in the face. It's almost like it would make you sad. It would make you hurt, disappointed, rejected. And this was the side of the family that did nothing. So you have the side of the family on the father's side, Samantha and the brother and the father who are out there talking to the media. But yet then you have Doria's family who has said absolutely nothing. An expose was done on the family about them being proud of her and excited for her. But they knew Meghan and they don't even get an invitation. But yet we want to believe that what the family is saying that is speaking publicly is, well, that's so wrong of them. Why would they go out there and say all these things about Meghan? That's just terrible. But then you have the other side of the family that's not saying anything. And the whole thing being, well, what the people that are saying something, they have to be speaking some truth. Because she didn't invite them. She didn't even invite the family that's not speaking to the public. But yet she wants to have a wedding that's interjected all of this African theme or this really cultural theme. And she ain't got nothing to do with her own black family. Now, what if that ain't some perpetrating? I don't know what is. Now, come on now. People are not going to call that out. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. And it's so hypocritical to not even acknowledge your family that is of color, but yet you want to put themes in your wedding that are around color and ethnicity, but you don't even invite the black side of your family. So you are trying to portray something that is not you. You are trying to show that you are one way because you want it to look and appear this way, like it's an illusion almost. But the reality is, based on your actions and what you have actually done, shows that you don't want nothing to do with the ethnic side of your family. You don't want nothing to do with the non-ethnic side of your family. So you are portraying a false narrative. That is my opinion. But when you look at it, that's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like. And that's why they're trying to do other things. They're trying to change the narrative. And then they go back and they read and they look at what people are saying. And they're trying to manipulate the press and the things that they're doing to appear one way. But their actions are just not authentic. And the best thing that someone can do who is constantly having bad things written about them is to really ignore it and be a good person, be the best version of yourself, and you would not have to worry about this. But they have from the very beginning of this relationship, have been trying to control the narrative and what people say. She's even telling people with hints before she's even known to be Prince Harry's girlfriend, something exciting is coming. And knowing full well that it's going to be a bombardment of press and people attacking you. Why not just lie low with that and just be in love and get married and be authentically involved with the family that you have known your whole life and just do what you say you're going to do, but they can't. She's not real in what she's trying to portray. So there's this constant fight and back and forth with the press and what they're saying and what they're doing, and being upset that you can't say anything. And so there's this big conflict that you can see that is starting to happen in the beginning before the relationship even gets going, and before she's trying to control the narrative way in advance of it really being a big deal with the press. What we have with Meghan and the lawsuits and the wanting to control things with what happens, with what people report about her, you can see that in the very beginning of this relationship that she was trying to come not as a person who had the right intentions from the very beginning, because there was always this underlining trying to rewrite the script as the stories were being written. And rather than being in the relationship and just giving up the acting and being fully committed to being in love with the prince and being in the royal family and ignoring all of the noise around her, like she said she would just ignore the noise. But the reality is she wasn't ignoring the noise. She didn't do it before she got married. She didn't do it after they got married. So there's this underlining hypocrisy. There's this underlining wanting to rewrite the story that she was wanting to paint with her marriage to this prince. The whole reasoning behind the marriage, she's trying to paint the narrative completely different. So that's why there's this constant battle and struggle with the press, because for one, she can't control it. Lady C dives deep into how this is something that you can't never understand or really grasp the way you could with the American and Canadian press. It's a different beast, but she couldn't grab a hold of something that she thought she could take control over, and has gotten out of control with these current lawsuits that she's filed now, even with her son having a lawsuit before he can even talk. This is a whole underlining sense of just raw, visceral, underlining, cutthroat, trying to go up against something that is way bigger than who you are, because you want it to be one way, because she's used to having it her way. It's no longer her way anymore. And she's coming up against a fight that she'll never win. And in the beginning, we can see Harry and Meghan just did not know how to handle what was coming their way. And they'll never be able to handle it, because until they become real in their relationship and what they really want to do, whether it be something good in the public's eye or bad in the public's eye, until they come full authentically to the present of what it is they are trying to do with their relationship and their lives, they'll never be able to change what people write and how people see them. Because people can see the intention. People can see their intentions based on their actions. It's not hate or dislike for them just because who they are. It's what they're doing that's causing all the hate, and they need to just stop doing what they're doing and let people write what they want to write. But just like this new book coming out, Finding Freedom, they want to say they had nothing to do with it. You read chapter 4 of Lady C's book and you're going to know. No, they had something to do with that book, Finding Freedom. And that, my friends, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Read chapter 4 and you'll see how we know that this whole book, Finding Freedom, was coming from them all along, because they wanted a way to speak out without it being them actually speaking. Because from the very beginning, they were trying to control the narrative. They were trying to say, hey, look, you stop harassing her. Meghan's like, oh, look, I'm so happy. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Talking about trying to hire people to write certain things about her, or trying to have a certain persona portrayed in the publications before she was even a real celebrity. Yeah, and and I find it very, when you look at, Harry has never even met his father-in-law, and then the whole debacle about how the father ended up having heart attack and how it wasn't about her father's health anymore. It was about, you're not coming to my wedding to walk me down the aisle for my moment that's going to be written in the press and people are going to talk about me. This is a moment in history and you just had to go have a heart attack, didn't you, Daddy? You just had to go have a heart attack on the most important day of my life. When I'm trying to really write the narrative of this great moment in history, you have ruined it. So your heart attack means nothing to me because you made it at a very inconvenient time. And that I find very revealing. You know, a lot of this that we have read in Lady C's book, we have known, but she really pulls us into the void, the parts that we haven't really understood. She helps it to all kind of be pieced together. And you can see how Meghan and Harry, and especially Meghan, who is trying to manipulate things, and Harry, who is trying to manipulate people to like his wife. You know, it's like he mad and having a tantrum because nobody don't like his wife. It's like, sorry, you married the wrong woman, dude. You just did. Right? And Meghan, she just don't like nobody, even her own dad who had a heart attack and couldn't come walk her down the aisle on her wedding. So to me, I just think they've got, like she says, wounded feelings and poor judgment were about to make what the press had already dubbed the Markle debacle into something which was not only damaging and destructive, but would cause unnecessary damage and pain to all the parties involved. And that's how chapter 4 ends. And that is the truth. That is the truth. A lot of unnecessary pain. These people have created something that they're trying to rein in with maybe these lawsuits and dismissing people and just trying to try to do a do-over. Well, we know who you are now. You can't do no do-over. You done already made the impression. You done already shown us who you are. So we see who you are. And unfortunately, it's not going to get better for this couple until they change who they are drastically for the better. And that means, hey, stop trying to tell your own story and just start being a good person and ignore all the noise like you said you would do. Just ignore it and be a good person. But to me, it seems like they can't go on ignoring things because they're doing things that are not very authentic. They're not very genuine. And so they're going to always have to be put up against what the press says because the press is going to keep it real. We're going to check you. And either you're going to play nice and be good and do things for the right reasons, or you're going to keep going on trying to write your narrative and be a certain kind of special kind of way. And people are going to have to write about it. Because you trying to pull magic tricks all day long. And people ain't trying to see that. We see the sleight of hand. We see you. Be better. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And until next time, you guys, peace and love. I love you all. Bye-bye.